to the Cardinals, and a win by the Atlanta Falcons knocked the Seahawks out of the playoffs for the first time in 6 years, and now the team faces some tough decisions in the offseason. Here with his thoughts, please welcome back my Hawk Zone partner, Barbershop Show co-host, and former UW running back, Terry Hollimon. Have you recovered?
I'm a little better today. 24 hours later, I'm a little better.
Yeah, it was tough. Everybody keeps saying it was a microcosm of the season.
It absolutely
so do you agree with that?
I absolutely was. If you hadn't watched any Seahawks games for the entire season, all you had to do was watch this past game versus Arizona. You would have saw exactly what happened all year long. It was a problem with slow starts. And the first half was just abysmal.
Terrible.
Offense was unable to get anything going. You have a second half resurgence where Russell just looks miraculous. The defense starts playing, absolutely strict, stringent defense. And then you get to Blair Walsh.
Kicking
Does it
game
make you
problems,
feel the same way too, huh?
And honestly, I feel so bad for him. He seems like such a great guy in his interviews, etc., and he's had problems in the past, and this was not good.
Right.
So it brings me to the question, okay, what is the diagnosis? We know slow starts, we know missed opportunities, we know we had trouble with the kicking game, and special teams in general sometimes. What do we do differently this offseason?
Oh, man, you know what? I thought long, hard about this, and I just know that whatever happens, this is probably going to be one of the most tumultuous off seasons that the Seahawks have had in at least a decade, and at least the time since Pete Carroll has been here. There's going to be some tough decisions that are going to have to be made, and it's not going to all be based on performance. Some of it is going to be based on performance in the past year when it has happened, but some of it is going to be financial. There's going to be some guys that are owed a lot of money that the Seahawks are going to have to make some tough decisions on, whether they put them out on the market and try to get value for them while they still can.
Who are these people?
Oh, man. And it's tough for me because I hate to talk about other guys in their profession.
Right.
And, this is when we talk about this, it's kind of abstract sometimes. But these are real guys with real families, with real
have
kids.
To move and all that stuff. Yes.
And this is their livelihood. But you look at, Richard Sherman is coming off a tough injury this season. And, they had talked about trading him last season. So, there's some tough decisions that have to be made there with Earl. Cliff Averill has an injury that he has dealing with that he probably will not play football again, is what they're saying. And the same thing goes for Cam Chancellor.
Michael Bennett?
Michael Bennett, he had a tough season this year, all things considered, even his off-field issues. And then you look at his production on the field. He's dealt with a plantar fasciitis injury all year long.
Right.
And he's owed a lot of money this year as well. So,
and you have to save your money somewhere. They've been saving it on the offensive line, and
that obviously has not worked out.
That has not worked out, and there's been this narrative, and I don't, listen, I'm no expert, but just as a fan, there's been this narrative that Tom Cable is a magician who can, make magic on this offensive line thing with whoever comes in. Well, no, actually, because it didn't work, and we haven't had a running game. So we went from a Super Bowl team with a ferocious running game and a ferocious defense, which is how apparently you win championships, to having no run game and Russell running for his life way too much of the time. So it seems like that has to change, doesn't
Something
it?
absolutely has to change. And you call Tom Cable the magician. Well, it's tough when you see the magic trick over and over again. And you, I see the card, man. I see it up your sleeve. He doesn't. It's not magic anymore. So they have to get some talent out there. They have to get some guys. But here's the thing where I was thinking about as well. You have the offensive line is just not like you can just not go replace one guy and it's going to make a magic difference.
They're a unit.
There are 5 guys that have to work in as a unit. So there's going to have to put in some work. They're going to have to get some guys. They're going to get some talent. That's number one. I think offensive line is the first key area that they need to address.
And do they have to take a closer look at themselves as coaches in this way?
I think in the offseason, I think they do every single year. I think if you are a good coach and a good coaching staff, which I believe that these guys are good coaches and good coaching staff, I believe they have great leadership in Pete Carroll, and I believe they have great leadership in John Snyder. I think every year they go back and reevaluate themselves to see areas where they can improve. And I think they are going to do that. I don't necessarily believe that they're going to fire any coaches. I believe there may be some coaches that interview other places and look at some opportunities. But I think they have a belief in themselves that they can work this thing out. I think Bevel is catching a lot of heat, and he has for a couple of years. But you have to look at these guys. They're 9 wins. They've been in the playoffs every year that Pete Carroll has been here. So something is working.
Something is working, but this one thing has not worked and has gone downhill. So we have good news. Russell, 34 touchdown passes, league leading. Some flashes of brilliance. Doug Baldwin comes to mind with that. Pete Carroll, is he going to stay, go, retire?
That's the craziest thing. So you look at Pete Carroll, and he's what, 65, 66 years old.
But acts like he's 26.
He acts like he's 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and you know, there had been rumors that he was going to retire, but he came out yesterday and said, basically, why would I retire? I'm in the prime of my life.
Exactly.
I'm as healthy as I've ever been. I'm as happy as I've ever been. I'm as fired up as I've ever been. And, you know, in real life, retirement really is not an age. It's, you know, it's a state of mind.
Something else. All right, let's talk about Schneider then. John Schneider has been a wonderful general manager, but apparently there is a sudden opening for a GM in Green Bay, and he's from that area, was a Packers fan growing up. Would he leave Seattle?
You know, I would think that would be, on a normal situation, normal circumstances, that a guy would want to go home to where he came from to lead a team and an organization that he's always been a fan of.
And they're in pretty good shape,
They're in pretty good shape. They got a pretty good quarterback there. They got a pretty good team. But I listened to Pete Carroll talk this morning on his press conference, and, you know, he exclaimed that they are really tied at the hip. John and Pete, they believe in each other. They have a desire to build something big here, and I don't believe that they're going to split that up at this point in time.
Okay, let's talk about people we'd like to keep. And I thought about Justin Coleman. I thought about McDougal. I thought about Shaq Griffin. Who else?
Those are all young guys that are definitely going to be a part of this organization.
Can we please
keep
them?
I think all those guys are here. And this is the crazy thing about this team right now, Margaret, is you look at this team, and everybody who's a Seahawks fan at 12, everybody around Seattle, we're looking at it like we're in such despair. We did not make the playoffs this year. This offseason is going to be really crazy. But if you look at the bones of this team, the way it's built right now, this is still a great football team.
Right.
Like, they have great – if you looked at a team that said you have Richard Sherman still on the roster, you have Earl Thomas still on the roster, Cam Chancellor, Michael Ben – there are some great players on this team, led by Russell Wilson. And we're right now like thinking like we're on the edge of Armageddon.
I think it's just the frustration. They have lost in such a frustrating way. We've won more on the road than at home, which is weird because, you know, CenturyLink used to be, you know, kind of a lock, and you wonder about that. So what's going to happen to Jimmy Graham? He makes a lot of money. He's at the end of his contract, and we've never really figured this out.
You know, if it were me making the decision, and we've talked about this a lot here.
You've gone back and forth.
I've gone back and forth. I've apologized profusely to Jimmy on air. I just think that you can't let him go. It's just my opinion now, guys. The way I've gone from set him on fire and kick him out of here to I think he's a vital part of this organization right now. You see how the productivity he's had in the last, you know, half of the season. Right. He's what, I think 10 touchdowns this season. I think it's hard to replace that kind of productivity at that position for sure.
So we agree, don't panic. We need a running back, we need a kicker, we need to fix the O-line. Let's take a look at Tagboard, which puts together some tweets that people have been releasing and some Facebook posts. Somebody else is going to have to read that, or I'm going to have to get up and read it. Hang on a second. That's too far away. It says, what moves should the Seahawks make during the offseason? Comments below. We'll share some of your answers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's see some answers then. Oh, it is all on Facebook. Kick Walsh to the curb. Oh, poor guy. But, yeah, we do need a kicker. Okay, what's next? Most people want them to replace Walsh. Also, the Hawks should discuss with NFL eliminating the Thursday night games. Here. Too many injuries with that. I totally agree. That costs this team a lot. Sally says their number of penalties per game is also unprecedented. They give away like 100 yards a game.
Yeah,
That's
you cannot
just really
make up
tough.
for that.
Lastly, stop paying them so much. Their huge egos are getting in the way. Well, you know, it's a free market, and they can do what they can do. I love the chemistry between Baldwin and Russell. So do I. Good grief. Those two are just so amazing. Okay, I got to hop up again. Sorry, I can't see. I'm becoming pretty frustrated with the offensive line. Yes, you and me both, Mary Catherine, and how they are not effectively protecting their quarterback. I'm not saying they're inefficient, but inexperienced. It seems they need to watch themselves in play. I think they do actually watch their film. I think they do.
I hope so.
Also, not sure what to do about Walsh. Yeah, absolutely. So, Doug Baldwin gave an interview yesterday as he was cleaning out his locker, and he looked so sad, and he was, you know, red-eyed after the game at the podium. You just want to hug him, but then I always want to hug Doug, so that's nothing unusual. But he said, don't get on Bevel. It's not the offensive coordinator. And he challenged reporters and fans to watch the film.
Yes.
That this is an execution problem, and that was all he could say without breaking the rules. What is your interpretation of what he said?
At the end of the day, you know, coaches call plays and players run plays. And, you know, these coaches, I don't think they're purposely calling plays to put themselves in a bad position. I think Darrell Bevell, you know, does a pretty decent job of calling plays. With that being said, it's up to those guys to execute. It's up to the offensive line to block. It's up to the running backs to run the ball. And if you're not doing either of those things effectively, it throws everything out of whack. This team is built to run the ball first.
Right. Yes.
If you look at the teams that are in the playoffs right now, the top 10 rushing teams in the National Football League, 9 of them are still in the playoffs. So that tells us that we need to do something different and execution-wise as far as executing our run plays and our blocking.
And that can be on guys. It can also be on coaches to motivate guys and teach guys. But
It
was
can
an
be,
interesting comment.
Margaret, but listen, I think you're talking about professionals, you're talking about grown men. It's not too many things you can do to motivate a grown man to get out there and not get beat up by another grown man. Absolutely.
Right. I just thought that was really interesting. Thank you so much. You have been the best possible partner for this all year. We've had fun, we've had drinks, we've cried, we've laughed. Many thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again soon. You can also catch Terry and his Barbershop Show co-host, former Seahawk Marcus Trufant, Wednesday nights at 6 on KJR Sports Radio 950. In fact, make sure you follow them on social media as well. Next up, a pediatric sleep consultant on how to get the little ones to catch their Z's. We could use this at the Hollimon house, right?
Yes,
we'll be right back.